So I've come to a horrific realization. Even though my mind keeps going and keeps wanting to help and follow Jesus and help others and go to court and live outside, and I've prepared and ordered and worked hard and all this different stuff, it doesn't undo what my father and mother did for 25 years. It doesn't undo the fact that I can't get proper medical care. It doesn't undo their 15 years of manipulations and bullshit. Like a swimming medal that I won is an attachment disorder, I'm a liar, and I'm a thief. Now, that's just the first example. I could go over the list, but that's the first one at age like 4. Then there's a whole bottle of Epicac. There's an overdose that my mother calls an allergy attack. She just comes up with these fake illnesses. And when things are going good and I'm getting good grades and teachers sent me back notes that say I'm doing a great job, my mother really loses it then. Then she really tries to come up with mental illnesses. She starts drugging me and going to the doctors and completely nuts. This is what killed her, by the way. My father would disagree and come up with a bunch of fake things that, oh, well, it's just liver failure. Well, what causes liver failure, Dad? I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Well, I can tell you, with my own 2 eyes, I watched her drinking with 20% of her liver working only. With my own 2 eyes, I watched her go into her son's pill bottle and pop Vicodin. With my own 2 eyes, me and my mother were taking your own Percocet. With my own 2 eyes, I saw a bottle of Xanax that was an old prescription disappear. And this was when I was real young and didn't know what meds were yet. I didn't quite know what was going on at that time. Somebody just asked me about Ritalin. That's all I was learning at that time, what my Ritalin was about and what all these other crazy sleeping, crazy meds were. I still don't understand half of them. Like Remron, or sorry, not Remron, Risperidone. Why did my mother want me on Risperidone and Zyprexa so bad? Now, I'm not schizophrenic. I've never had a diagnosis in my life. Not my mother tried to make up stories, but the doctors didn't fall for it that time. Then she tried to make up more stories, and the doctors didn't fall for it the second time. Then she tried to make up stories with me and my father and the doctors. Nobody fell for it the third time. Then she tried harassing me while I played with action figures, seeing if she could twist my mind. Nobody believed it that time. Then she tried yelling at me and yelling it into me and screaming at me and trying to scare me into believing her lies. Nobody bought it that time. Then she tried slapping me across the face because I didn't believe her lies, and nobody would go along with her lies. And it's still she went on. So she went on with so many mental illnesses, I have no clue which one is for which anymore. My mother went off the rails making up so many illnesses based off of bullshit. I mean, for instance, like, I was suicidal, but my mother was messing around with 3 medications that say right on the paperwork, if your son is experiencing suicidal thoughts or depression, consult a doctor right away. Now, it says that right on the paperwork the pharmacist is handing my mother. Literally, I am on like 5, 7 medications, all different types. At least 3 of them have that right on the print. Now, I take these medications. We have a scary conversation, or me and my mother go off the rails, or they belittle me for something, like just whatever it is. I can't even come up with one right now. Oh, I'll give you one. My mother belittled me because I did good and helped another student in class, and my teacher thought it necessary to write a good note home telling my mother how wonderful I did that day. And my mother went so nuts, she twisted words around in the letter, came up with a mental illness letter to send back, a crazy letter. She had the letter sent back by me, and then the teachers looked scared. Their jaws dropped. What is your mother doing? What is wrong with her? Why is she writing us a letter like this? I have no idea. We don't understand. Yesterday you did so good. We sent you a letter home. We figured your mother would reward you or something. Nope. She yelled at me for 3 hours instead about nothing. I don't understand what's going on. Yeah, neither do we. Your mother must be crazy. Yeah, I know she is. She turns good things into bad. So something like that probably was going on. I didn't know how to handle it. Or for instance, when I jumped into a pool, I sliced the back of my foot open and couldn't feel it, and I had to get stitches. My mother yelled at me, telling me that I must be self-harming with the back of my foot. Or for instance, my mother gave me an overdose of medication. When I woke up, my body had changed terribly. My body was different than it was the day prior. So I started trying to touch my body and feel and suck on it and see if I could figure out what was going on at the age of like 7. My mother comes in and starts trying to turn it into mental illness, saying sucking on yourself is self-harming, and I must be mentally ill because I'm sucking on my skin. So I must be self-harming because I'm 6 years old or so, 7 years old, sucking on my skin. Now, all this was the same exact time right after the overdose. Not only that, when I was supposed to go to an adoption hearing or something like that, or adoption party right after this wooden bench in like a courthouse or something, my mother gave me pills and I was passed out for both. I literally slept on a wooden bench through the whole hearing I wanted to see. I slept in the car no matter how hard I tried to stay awake. And for my own party, while people brought me gifts, I was looking on the floor for a place to curl up and sleep because I was fucked up. Oh my God. To this day, the closest thing I could say to the feeling would be a heavy dose of Benadryl or opiates. That's pretty close to the feeling I had right after my mother gave me a dose of pills in the car. I mean, well, on the way to the car, on the way to some adoption thingy where there's wooden benches set up kind of like church benches, but in some like courthouse or something. And then an adoption party right after where I'm just like trying to sleep the whole time because I'm all high as a kite on some pill. My mother says take pills. I was told that if I don't do what my mother and father said, I was allowed to get smacked. I was allowed to have shoes thrown at me. I was allowed to get beat with a ruler. On top of that, my house had a saying: if we say jump, you jump. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if we're right or wrong. You will never ever get to overrule us. Even if we are 100 years old and you become 60 and you think you're right about something, it doesn't matter. You don't get to tell us it. And this was the speech I got from my mother constantly. So don't think like I was able to speak up without getting a beating. I spoke up at doctor's offices. I spoke up many times, but there was either more drugs, rulers, and smacking. My mother went off the rails more and would drink more, which means more shoes thrown at my head. Just total craziness. Total craziness. Now I'm 31 and over that. She died in 2011 because she was taking drugs and alcohol. And I wasn't allowed to tell the doctors while she was passing away, so nobody gave her the help she needed. Anytime I try to tell the doctors about her drinking or the unregistered gun in the house, meanwhile I'm on medications that could cause suicidal thoughts. Meanwhile, my mother is acting off the rails, saying crazy things. I mean, what happens if my mother decides to blow my brains out and then put a gun in my hand? I mean, what happens if I'm on drugged up? What happens if my mother decides to give me 5 pills that have the side effect of suicidal thoughts and depression, and then there's an unregistered gun in the house? I mean, you think anybody's really, I mean, that was like a setup for me. Absolutely. They were trying to set something up for me. I don't know what it was, but my mother, oh my God, her nutsness. Now, it wasn't done on purpose. It wasn't like they wanted me to get shot by my mother or nothing. But these are bad choices. You have an unregistered gun in the house. You got a very wacky mother who's taking pills, doing all different types of crazy things, who's avoiding responsibility on top of that. You got a son who's on all different types of pills. The mother's messing around with these pills. You already know this because my father already knew she was taking my Vicodin. My father already knew she had control of my controlled substances. My father already knew about the extra Epicac during Westford in childhood, so he already knew she was capable of giving extra medications for punishments. He already knew that in the doctor's office I reported that my mother gave me some medication, and then I lost my vision, lost the feeling. I ended up passing out on a pile of newspapers while wanting to watch a movie with my family. Just totally mindfuck shit. Totally shit that fucks up your body and mind. Now, the whole point of this video and why I'm going over this is I've come to the realization that my body is too fucked up from what my mother did to me. I was bad back then. The worst I've ever had it was age 7 during the overdose. But that's exactly what I'm still going through now. It's just sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. It's especially bad in the cold. Now, I can't even basically do stuff. If I try to walk and run around with the chicken with his head off, cut off again, go here, go to the Department of Health and Human Services, go to Social Security again, then go to work for a 13-hour shift, then go help an old man, then get up with only 2 hours of sleep, then go down to the doctor isn't helping, then try to go, oh, ambulance takes you to the emergency room, then you go back to the doctor, they do nothing, emergency room just released you as soon as you got there, then you go to the doctors, then you go back to work, then you go to Department of Health and Human Services, Social Security, cash benefit, Social Security. You do that for 7 years, and guess what? I still don't have no Social Security. I still don't have no cash benefits. I still don't have any doctors helping me. I still don't have the emergency rooms taking this seriously yet. So if I try all that again, if I go back to the emergency room, what I am going to do, what I am doing as of, I literally just got out last week. So I am still going to the emergency room. I still have a primary care. I just saw her yesterday. I still have a neurologist. I'm literally calling him again today. I still have a GI doctor. I still have a urologist. And I still have a job, but I don't have the strength to do anything. I can't even make my own breakfast. I haven't had breakfast yet. It's 2 in the afternoon, 1 in the afternoon, something like that. I can't even do basic motor function. Why? Because I have pressure on the nervous system. I mean, this always happens. When I was trying to watch fireworks at the age of like 10ish in Maine, I ended up falling to the ground and screaming in pain, trying to cover my ears, trying to prevent the overload of nervous system that was going through my body. But I couldn't even stand up. I couldn't continue standing up. My legs just, boom, done. My arms, boom, done. I barely could hold my ears shut. That was age 10. The first one I remember is the overdose. That's when this all started. My mother gave me a handful of medications. I couldn't feel my hands. I couldn't feel the floor. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't talk. This is all the same stuff. When I was in New Mexico, they had me outside on a really cold day. I backed up into a tree, started shaking, falling. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't talk. Nobody could get me to use any motor functions, and I ended up passing out. I think I might have had a seizure, but I don't know because I passed out. I was unconscious. That was at age, let me see, New Mexico was what, age 8? This is nothing new. I was bumping into stuff, having problems my whole life moving my body. As soon as my mother gave me that overdose. In the orphanage, I was coming in first for swimming, first for wiffle ball, first for a lot of sports. I was doing fine in the cold. They barely gave me any coats during swim class. I came back with the swim medal, my hair all wet, and we had to go in the cold to get to it. Did I shake? Did I fall? No. I don't even remember it being that painful. I don't remember getting shocked in the spine. I don't remember there being any disability other than me being hyper through the roof. Back when I was an orphan, I was just hyper through the roof, but I was getting best behaved. I was getting best swimming. And then all of a sudden, I go into this foster family, my adopted foster family, my adopted parents. I get given shitloads of pills. My body gets completely destroyed by this mother of mine, my adopted mother, Pat. And now everybody just wants to act like it didn't happen. They want me to go live in the woods like a mountain man. That's what the Social Security wants. That's what the state wants. That's what my father wants. That's what my family wants from me. They literally watched this stuff. They heard the reports. They saw the crazy behaviors. They saw my mother acting completely nuts. They heard my mother admit to giving me extra Epicac. And if they wanted to spend the time talking to me about it, I would have told them about it too. If somebody wanted to come by and spend the time talking about my mother's administering medication, that would have been fine. I spoke up at the doctors right in front of my mother and father, and then I got it good for that. My mother upped medications. She started smacking me. There's all different types of crazy stuff. I mean, one time, there was a kid crying in another room, in a computer room. I didn't know what to do. So I ran over to my mother and I said, "What do I do? Do I hug him? Do I give him some medication? Do I end up calling his mother? What do I do?" She goes, "Give him medication, the last one." Actually, when I really said it in the, I put the medication last. So let me do it the right way. I'm not remembering it out of my PTSD memory. Here, I'll give you it exactly how it happened. Me and a younger kid were in the computer room. He missed his mother. Started crying, 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 would not stop for about 15 minutes. At this point, I walked over to my mother. Something to keep in mind is my mother just bought me over-the-counter mood stabilizer pills that she saw on the shelf. I pointed to it in the store and said, "What are these? Are these any good?" My mother said, "Yeah, we'll buy those. You should take those too." So there was this little happy face on the box, and it said mood stabilizing, helps support mood. It was just in the supplement over the counter. Well, actually, it wasn't a supplement. Technically, it said over the counter. It wasn't in the supplement aisle. It was in the over the counter section where they pulled this. It doesn't exist anymore. But, anyways, so she bought this for me, and she was giving it to me with my regular meds. So I go over to my mother, and I give her three options. I say, "Mom, what should I do?" The first option was give him a hug, what I already tried. Obviously not going to work. Then I said, "Well, how about we call his mother?" Second, and then third was, "How about those mood stabilizers you got me? Can we give him those?" Now I'll say it exactly how I said it at the age of 5. "Mom, Mom, Mom." "Yeah? What, Zach? What?" "He's crying in the other room. What do I do? What do I do?" Mom goes, "I don't know." I don't know either. What do I do? Should I give him a hug? Should I call his mother? How about those mood pills you gave me? Then my mother's response was, "Yeah, the last one. Give him those mood stabilizers. Those will help." She actually formed the sentence after that. It wasn't even a short yup like regular. At this point, I asked him. I went into the room with the box and showed him and asked him if his mother would approve of this. And he just said, "I don't want it. I don't want it." So I took it and gave it back on the table and said, "Mom, he doesn't want it." Which she just said, "Uh-huh," while watching the TV. I go back to kind of comfort him, hug him, ask if he wants to speak to his mother. He got over it and we went back to playing. But that could have gone very wrong. And if you knew my mother, she would have lied through her teeth, too. Let's say I did give those medications to my friend. And let's say the mother doesn't approve and started yelling. You know what my mother would have said? Instead of taking responsibility and saying, "Well, I thought it was a good idea and it was just some supplement," she would have said, "I never said anything. That's just Zach acting crazy. He's just going around giving people pills. That's what Zach's doing. Zach's going around giving people pills. That's what he's doing. I'm going to make up a fantasy. Zach's going around giving people pills. That's what he's doing." And that's me acting like my mother. My mother would say that. She would go around turning something into nothing. So, one, nobody got any medication. Nobody was administered nothing. Two, even if there was, my mother would have had to tell me to do it. I would never, ever do anything unless I was told by an adult. No way. My body's different. Doing something with my body's one thing. But I was held down and had medication forced upon me. I don't want anybody to think even close to that. So I only ask adults when it comes to medication what the best thing is. I mean, I don't even know what's going on with my body. My mother got me on all these medications and I don't even understand why. So I definitely would not mess around with nothing. But my mother, on the other hand, she pops pills herself like they're candy. She administered me pills like crazy. She gave me extra Epicac as a punishment. And when I said I had a headache on a plane, she gave me a pink opiate pill that I looked up and found out it was an opiate class drug just for a headache. She's giving her, I don't know, 13-year-old, 16-year-old son opiates. On top of that, she had no problem taking my Vicodin that the ER gave me for extreme headaches on the floor that I can't get up from at the age of like 14. So my mother cannot administer medications properly. But when I was 10, 12, when I was 7, I didn't know that. Of course not. No 7-year-old knows medical care. Hell no. So now I am 31 and I cannot live a normal life. and they're about to throw me into the woods to die. They're about to crucify me. They're about to execute me. And they're about to blame it all on me, too. Watch. They're going to say, well, he didn't move. Well, he's being stubborn. Well, he's making up stories. Well, he wouldn't tell anybody what's wrong. Well, how are we supposed to know? Well, he should have came to us sooner. Well, he should have done this. No, I've done everything in the last 25 years possible. But I literally have people not telling the truth. Like, for instance, the landlord, right? He can twist things however he wants. Like there is a moldy rag stuck with mold growing all under the sink from when I moved in. I don't know how it's stuck. I tried scraping it. It's fused with the wood now and it's black and you get very dizzy if you get too close. Now when we go to court, I guarantee you he says we put it there. I guarantee you the landlord pulls that trick where he tries like here's another one. When we moved in, there was a hole in the back of a door. Now, we told the landlord that we didn't want this hole there and we need a new door. He never got us the door. Now, when we get evicted, you know why he left one hole? So he can come in and try to blame it on the tenants. He can lie and manipulate, just like my mother did, just like my father's still doing. He still blames a child for moving to Texas. He asked a like 4 or 5 year old in Westford. Actually, I was older. I was 7. I was 7. It was at the end. I was 7 years old. My mother wants to go to Texas. My father does not. They'll make more money though. I'm the tiebreaker. So they go up to the child. Which one do you want? I say yes. Then I say no. Then I say yes. Then I say no. I say I don't know. I don't know. But my mother convinces me that it's a yes. So we do a yes. Now, when you ask my father whose fault it is that we moved to Texas, who made the decision for us to move to Texas? Who made that decision? He says the 7-year-old child made the decision. No, my mother made the decision, and I was just a tiebreaker child that knew nothing. I knew nothing at 7 years old. I had no clue what the climate was. I had no clue how much money we would have to spend if the rent was higher, lower. I had no idea what the crime was. I had no idea that I would have to give up my medical care. I had no idea my mother was covering up a crime. I had no idea any of these things existed. But if you ask my father, he will blame the child. He will not say, well, your mother wanted to go and you were just the tiebreaker, so I guess your mother has the responsibility of who wanted to move to Texas and who decided we were moving to Texas. Your mother decided we were moving to Texas, and then you picked the tiebreaker. But technically, I said no, too. As the age of 7, I first said, I don't know. Then I said, yes, it will be warm. Then I said, no, I don't know what it's like in Texas. I am scared. I don't think this is a good idea. Which my mother brought me in another room, sweet talked me for 30 minutes, convincing me to go back to yes. After I've said no, 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 no. And then I say yes, and then they finalize it. Now, whatever. It doesn't matter. But you can't blame a 7-year-old child for your own decisions. Like, here's another one. My mother decided to day drink. I was in the program. My mother decided to blame me for her drinking. Then later, she admitted to it after 2 weeks of making me cry over it. So guess what I did when I was 16? I showed them that they're full of shit. They can't tell if I stole a bottle of wine anyways. The only time this stuff used to happen is if my mother made up a story. Like, for instance, 2 years or so, or a year or so after my mother day drank and blamed it on me for 2 weeks. About a year or two later, I decided to swipe a bottle of red wine and hide it in the brook. Now, I never actually drank it because I don't like alcohol at this point. I leave it all capped. But I wanted to see if they actually could even tell if there was a bottle missing. They couldn't. I literally had to bring my father for a walk and admit to my mistake like I always do. I was always very honest. No matter how much my mother tried to make me seem dishonest, I was always the most honest person in the family. But that didn't matter because people like to twist things, however. But anyways, my mother made up a lie about her bottle and blamed it on me. Literally. literally did this for 2 weeks, blaming it on me, blaming it on me. Then she admits to it. So 2 years later, or so, I take another bottle of wine and I stash it. So now you got, shit, that's David's doctor. Oh shit.